So Simon, phase 5 is no surprise to anybody of brain-friendly selling, because it's about closing
Absolutely.
the deal. Of course, the bit that salespeople have to do if they're going to be successful. So what are the keys in terms of brain-friendly selling to closing the deal?
Well, firstly is to forget the old school, which is around let's build up all the hype and then we'll go for some impressive, very clever closing technique near the end. You know, I've got some, you know, American book on my bookshelf of 101 closing techniques from the 1970s, and they're all versions of just asking the customer if they'd like to go ahead. You shouldn't be waiting till the end to do that. It should be starting right at the very early stages of the customer's buying process and or therefore your sales process. So, for example, qualifying the opportunity, making sure that the customer's got some budget, you understand who's making the decision-making process, you understand the problems, challenges before you go ahead. So, you know, if you don't qualify properly, you're probably not going to be very successful. And then checking in with the customer and their brain on an ongoing basis. Does that sound okay so far? Does it sound like I'm on the right track? Do you like what I'm hearing? Is this making sense? So I'm checking, I'm tiny little closing all the way. I'm closing. I've discussed price quite early on, so you know that's been done, that's been checked, and I sometimes refer to it as kind of like you would get into your bath at home. You know, you don't fill the tub full of water and jump straight in. You probably put your hand in first to make sure the water temperature's okay, then you dip your toe in, and you ease your way into it. That's much more comfortable for the customer, and quite often the customer closes themselves, because they then start saying, so Grant, how soon do you think we could get going on this, and would you be able to do this? And you say, yeah, we can certainly, if that's something that you'd like included, I think we could do that. Should we start to get some dates in the diary then, or even more overtly, okay, so we've discussed the budget. Do I need a purchase order? How do we go forward? What do I need to do to get listed as a supplier? It's just a gentle, friendly, comfortable question. You move the customer slowly and respectfully towards the yes. It's not a big fight at the end. It's just nicer, because that is brain unfriendly. You're starting to ease the customer into making the decision.
So what you're saying from a brain-friendly point of view is that, you know, these series of kind of micro closes, if you like, they're easy things to say yes to and build up, whereas if you leave it all to right at the end, so can we do this then? You're making this huge decision, which is obviously much more uncomfortable and risky.
Absolutely.
Seems risky for anybody to be able to make.
The only kind of exception, which is part of the adaptive selling, is sometimes your driver personality, that testosterone person, they like to get down to, you can sometimes go, so should we get going? You know, bang quite early, and they'll go, yeah, good, let's go. But that's not going to work for the steadiness personality, and it's definitely not going to work for the gold analytical. Fast decision makers, green expressive, and particularly the red driver personality, that would be more. But even then, I'd still test close. But you're probably going to move to a yes faster with some personality behavioural profiles than with others. Hence, you need to adapt your approach.
And how good in your experience are salespeople at doing this, at kind of micro closing or test closing through?
From work we do where we run, for example, we'll run pitching programs, or we'll run, you know, sales simulations where we have salespeople working on camera, and usually the most common piece of feedback salespeople give to each other is you probably could have started closing the sale earlier than you did. So it's, you know, fascinating. We'll be working together, and the colleagues will say, oh, you could have closed him earlier. And then they come in and do exactly the same thing. So when the time is right, when the customer is ready to buy, we need to be asking those questions to bringing it to a conclusion. Because if you carry on the old adages, if you sell past the closing moments, you might sell yourself out of the deal. But firmly but gently, let's get this decision, and let's get the show on the road.